I just think it's not accurate to say, okay, we're done, like she's done and she's not on our side because she screwed up on this one area or we have a strategic disagreement with her on this.
Know what? This is not a strategic disagreement. This is her revealing that she is a phony and she's not willing to fight for Medicare for all like she campaigned on fucking in November.
Yeah, I think that's wrong, Jimmy.
I think that's wrong. Cause a ruckus, and we need to cause a ruckus. And so what she's revealing, Ben, I'll explain it to you. She's not doing any of the shit she ran on. She's not ever going to fight the establishment. That's what she's revealing at this fucking moment. She didn't do it when she voted for the Patriot Act, did she? No. Did she do it when she voted for the CARES Act? No. Did she do it when she voted for the largest upward transfer of wealth in the history?
She didn't even vote for the CARES Act.
She's doing it now when
she did vote for the CARES Act.
Yes, she did.
She did vote for the CARES Act.
Yeah, let me give you the 411 on that. She voted for it.
She did vote for it.
Well, what I'm hearing though, Ben, is like,
at what point did she ever fight the establishment in a meaningful way? Can you point to it?
The thing is, Ben, I'm not hearing Jimmy say, like, I think AOC and Nancy Pelosi are identical. But what Jimmy is saying is if at the end of the day, their behavior leads to the same ends, if at the end of the day, AOC isn't willing to do the thing that she was campaigning and ran on, which is to say she was willing to be an oppositional force to speak out against the Pelosi's of the world, even if it's well-intended, even if she thinks that she's been bought into the incrementalism of, oh my gosh, I'm in a position of power, I can give these people a $600 check tomorrow and that's going to save some life, even if I wish they could have $2,000 monthly checks, even if it's rooted in a kind of humanitarian ideal, if concretely, substantively, she ends up doing the opposite of what she said she was going to do, what she represented herself to be as a campaigner. I think Jimmy's point is it is worthwhile. He is legitimate in calling her out from having distanced herself from the person she represented her to be when she was campaigning.
And I think if that were true, I'd totally agree. I just don't think it's globally true at all. And I even think on this issue, it's not true. Like, I don't think, again, like, I think that I tend to agree. Like, Bree, the piece that you wrote, I liked a lot.
Can you point to a legislative achievement when she fucking fought for something and crossed her leadership?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I would say on the CARES Act, she did have a totally different approach.
You fucking voted for it, man. You're the last person for it. You're the only person who doesn't know this. So, no, you can't point to anything that she's ever done. You keep talking about her opposing people, but you can't point to anything, ever. And this is, Ben, I appreciate you supporting hashtag Force the fucking vote. That's super. That's fantastic. And I'm sure if you and I were in a bar, we'd have a beer together and we'd end up fucking being best friends. But your attitude is what fucking kneecaps movements. Guys like you Jimmy, who have no fucking fight in them, who give politicians the benefit of their doubt, are what's fucking stopping this.
I mean, I would also say that I would say that it also brings people into it. I do think that's true. Like, there are people who I think will be more open to hashtag Force the Vote or open to this, that a Ben can bring people in. That
yes,
just like
I totally agree with that. Yeah. Yes, Ben can bring people in, but at the same time, he shouldn't fucking kneecap the movement and the moment we're having. He can be the good cop, and I'll be the bad cop. But don't tell people that the bad cop is wrong about fucking AOC, because I'm fucking not. You can't point to one thing she's ever fucking done. The one thing you point to is something she did the opposite of.
Well, one, that's not correct. Like, we don't have a recorded vote for the CARES Act, but she did vocally speak out against it in ways that many other people didn't. I mean, it's the same thing when you look at the crime bill.
The crime bill, right?
Yeah, right. When you look at the crime bill, right, there's a huge difference between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden on the crime bill in the 90s. Bernie Sanders spoke out a lot about how it was a problem. And Joe Biden championed it, right? Those are totally different things. And I think it's important to acknowledge those. Also, Jimmy, she's taken other votes against leadership. I mean, on immigration stuff, I can't remember how many years, if it was 2 years ago, exactly when it occurred, but she took a vote against leadership on the immigration bill.
Her whole time, the only thing you can point to is something 2 years ago you can't really remember. The first thing you thought of is totally wrong. The Humanist Report came out against you. Kyle Kalinske just turned on you. AOC. Did you see that video? Guess who else? Crystal Ball. Guess who else? Jimmy Dore. Guess who else? Medea Benjamin. Cornell. Everybody sees through you.
Everybody sees through you, except your fucking sycophant DSA dickheads in fucking Brooklyn. We see through you. Even my detractors see through you. That's right. Everybody sees through the squad now. And why AOC? I'm telling they're pushing her out there because she's the most sympathetic. And so idiots can say, stop attacking her when she is standing between you and healthcare and protecting Nancy Pelosi and her career. Key organizing moments may look like random uprisings and viral internet moments to some, but they aren't. They are the results of years of targeting, organizing, and people's movements. This took 2 weeks. This took 2 weeks. This took 2 weeks. From someone who already went bankrupt from medical bills. It took 2 weeks. How long you been fucking working on this? I figured this out in 2 weeks, AOC. You liar, you coward, you gaslighter, you standing in the way of people in healthcare. You run on healthcare and then you deny it to us. You dangle it in front of your fucking constituents. And then when you get there, you don't lift a fucking finger. And I'm the problem? Fuck you. You already voted for the CARES Act. Fuck you. And fuck anybody who is protecting her. Fuck you. You just keep digging in deeper. We're going to see right now which side those progressive elected members of the House are on. Are they on your side or are they on the side of the establishment? Do they take orders or do they make demands of power? Because power concedes nothing without a demand. And here is where you play hardball. I'm not voting for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker until she promises to bring Medicare for All up on the floor for a vote. And if that means the Republicans get her to Speaker, then I'm willing to play that kind of hardball. Are the progressives willing to do that? Fingers crossed. People are saying that I need to be nicer to people to get on board with Medicare for All. They're supposed to be being fucking nice to me. Do you realize that? Do you realize you have it backwards? Do you realize if the DSA has a platform that they want to implement and I have a media platform, they could use it because we agree on it? I'm not supposed to fucking court them. They're supposed to court me. I jump on board their idea and they come and attack me? I jump on board the Justice Democrats' idea and they come and attack me? That's what they're fucking doing. Look, a protester sits inside Nancy Speaker Pelosi's office. We will not back down is scrawled on a folder. That guy probably get more done for the people than Nancy Pelosi did. I'd like to see what that guy would do. I would let him be Speaker for a while. Bernie's the establishment. Well, I mean, Jesus Christ, he's the chairman of the Budget Committee. That you couldn't be more fucking establishment than that.
Jimmy Dore hosts the Jimmy Dore Show. His views are on the opposite end from Donald Trump, but his views are still hated by a lot of the people in charge. So, Jimmy Dore, how does this make?
It makes me feel really uncomfortable that this new censorship push is coming from the left, just like conspiracy theories called Russiagate and McCarthy smearing all their political enemies, that of course, whenever you do McCarthy smearing or Russiagating or things like that, you're propping up the surveillance state, you're propping up the establishment, and they're going to come back to bite you. And that's exactly what happened with Bernie Sanders. He got caught up with doing Russiagate, and of course, they spashed his campaign by Russiagating him, saying that Russia was supporting him. Exactly. So this scares me because it seems like on the left, they can I just tell you, the Capitol riot did not happen because we didn't have enough censorship. That is a ridiculous idea, okay? Silicon Valley has turned into an extension of the Democratic Party. Glenn Greenwald just experienced that, right? I mean, what is going on right now is crazy. So just freedom of speech is the first in the Bill of Rights because it's important, because popular speech doesn't need protecting. It's unpopular speech that needs protecting. That's why it's first. The war on terror was already used to take away our free speech rights, States to take away our right of protection from invasive searches from the government. We live in a surveillance state, and now they're going to use this even more. Joe Biden has already said he's going to use this. They're using it as a domestic terrorism threat. And let me just tell you something. They never send. We know who gets censored. People who are pro-war never get censored. People who tell the truth about war get censored. That's why I'm being censored. That's why my channel gets throttled. That's why my so this is. I just lost 4,000 Twitter followers for no reason. So I don't understand how the left has to keep relearning this over and over and over. And the first person to be deplatformed was WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. And this would be a great way for Donald Trump to stick the thumb back in the eye of these people, is to pardon Julian Assange. If he knows what's good for freedom of speech and freedom of the press, he should take this moment and pardon Julian Assange.
I didn't used to think that, and I totally agree with it, partly because you convinced me through the force of your argument. I think that's absolutely right. So I hope you will come back. Yeah, please.
The idea that we're supposed to be nice to the squad because they agree with our policy positions when it's easy, that they agree with us 98% of the time, so we should never rake them over their coals. Let me just tell you this. I share 99% of my genes with a monkey. It's that 1% that really makes all the difference, isn't it? Nick Brana, thank you so much. People's Party, peoplesparty.org.
Nothing drove me fucking crazier than to watch people talk about healthcare in dulcet tones. Okay? Because people are fucking dying left and fucking right. People are going bankrupt. People are committing suicide left and right. And if we had Medicare for all, the suicide rates would plummet. And so that's why when as Nina Turner says, when your hair's on fire, talk like it is. That's what I'm doing. And I would encourage her to do the same thing.
And I want to point out, you saying that, Jimmy, that, we didn't point this out at the town hall either, and we really should have. And it's perhaps a reflection of how low our expectations are. Not one of them showed up.
Did any of them respond?
Not one. Not one. No, that's right. They didn't even not show up. They didn't even respond to us. We're talking about, between all of us, between all of Bree, Katie, Jimmy, Kyle, Crystal, all of us, some of the biggest voices in support. This is not the actions of a group of people, of a group of representatives who see themselves as accountable to a movement.
They're not accountable to anyone. I get 10 to 12 million views a month, and they won't come on and address my progressive audience. They won't come on and address Bree's audience or Katie's audience or Justin Jackson or you. They are not accountable to us. They're accountable to whoever the fuck themselves. Let's not kid ourselves. As Chris Hedges taught us a long time ago, the people attracted to politics are the most mediocre of people. They're not your friends. They are elected servants, and start fucking treating them that way.
I hear Brownie is seconding you in the background.
They're not your fucking friends. They're the people standing in between us and fucking healthcare. They're putting their fucking personal position ahead of that. Don't fucking forget that.
Who are you talking about with that, Jimmy?
I'm talking about anybody who's a progressive in Congress who isn't endorsing #TheVote. All those motherfuckers who didn't show up today at our town hall. Every fucking one of them is selling you out and canceling you for their own personal gain.
Yeah. Establishment. Again, if you lie at the behest of the establishment, just like Dr. Fauci did when he said you shouldn't wear masks, he said that. He was lying. He knew he was lying. He was doing it at the behest of the establishment because they didn't want you to think that masks works, because they didn't want you to go buy them, because they didn't have enough masks, because they didn't plan well enough. So why isn't this guy's thing taken down? Why isn't his Twitter taken down? Isn't that amazing?
I don't know if he's on Twitter anymore. I can't find him right now.
Oh, really?
I think as of earlier today, he was.
He was still on earlier today. Look up his hand. Max Blumenthal says, besides having his entire Southern Poverty Law Center archive removed for libelous screeds like this, Alexander Reed Ross literally works with right-wing Republicans, police spies, and DHS officials to push online censorship. So the guy accusing me of playing footsies with the right is literally working with Republicans, police spies, and DHS officials. Of course. Yeah. Of course, that's how it works. Who's playing footsies with the far right again? Of course. Here's more Max Blumenthal. He says, this latest lie filled incoherent leftists are really fascist screed was commissioned by Noah Shachtman. So this latest lie-filled incoherent leftists are really fascist screed was commissioned by, so that's their thing. So if you get to the left of the Democratic Party, they're going to do this to you, Justin, soon enough. So if you get to the left of the if you get to the left of the Democratic Party, they paint you as a misogynist, a sexist, and an alt-right platformer or some kind of in cahoots with them. And that's what they did. I saw it happen to Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan first endorsed Tulsi Gabbard, who was against the wars, and to the left of the Democratic Party because she didn't take any corporate cash and she was against the wars. And then he endorsed Bernie Sanders, and who's definitely to the left of the Democratic Party. And how did the Democratic Party and MSNBC, CNN, the Daily Beast, how did they all respond to Joe Rogan? He's a misogynist, he's a sexist, he's a transphobe, and he's a tool of the alt-right. That's what they do. If you get to the left of the Democratic Party, that's the playbook. That's exactly what they're doing to us here.
Yeah, the amount of people they name drop in this is wild.
That's that article, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So this latest lie-filled and the Justice Democrats are selling you out. Go watch the other shows. They won't even mention them. They won't even mention Ro Khanna, Mark Pocan, AOC, Pramila Jayapal, Rashid Tlaib, Jamal Bowman, Corey, but they won't even mention them. David Sirota mentioned them. He did an article at 3 a.m. after we called him out for not mentioning them. David Sirota dropped a Substack at 3 a.m. I'm mentioning them. I'm mentioning them. Friend of the show. There will come a time when the Jimmy Dore show will go away. The gray zone we're all going away. So enjoy it while we can. And thank people like the Young Turks, because it'll just be them left. You'll have the Young Turks and whoever is another corporate algorithm, whoever's on the Comcast app, you'll get that, and that'll be it. What's that? MSNBC. People who are on MSNBC. Why isn't the squad screaming about Joe Biden not giving us $2,000 checks? Because they've already sold you out for their own career. And anybody telling you the Justice Democrats didn't sell us out is either a dupe or a liar, because they sold us out. And I don't care if they don't take corporate money. They sold you out for a myriad things. They could sell you out for their own career, which is exactly what they did. They sold you out for their own career. Even as Katie Porter and AOC were being kicked off committees, they were telling you we're negotiating for committee seats, and they didn't get them. In fact, they got kicked off. But they can't be seen going against the Democratic Party because they all want to remain inside it and ascend in the Democratic Party. And that's how they sold you out. The Justice Democrats are just Democrats, and they're not fighting for you, and they'll only fight for you when it's easy. And unfortunately, the same thing is true for Bernie Sanders. He just went from $2,000 checks to $1,400 checks without pushing back against Bernie Sanders, about Joe Biden. Joe Biden is not Bernie's boss. We sent Bernie there to fight the Democratic Party, to fight neoliberals, not to prop them up, lie for them, and run interference for them. And that's what they're doing. That's what they did with the CARES Act. That's what they did with the Force to Vote. That's what they're doing over the $2,000 checks. They're fucking you and defending Joe Biden and the establishment. That's what they're doing. It's plain to see. And that's why America is still fucked. And they're the ones fomenting social discourse. If, as Dylan Radigan pointed out, this is how you set the table for social unrest in America. You have a government that abandons its people, and then the people who are the furthest left in government running interference for that oligarchy. That's exactly what they're doing. They're keeping us divided, and they're making us afraid to talk to each other. And I'm not going to play that game. If a guy shows you a picture of his kids, you probably can't kill him afterwards. It's going to be a lot harder for you to kill that guy once he's been humanized. Oh, wait, you've got kids? I got kids. You got a wife? Fuck, you got a mortgage? I got a fucking mortgage. You got a shitty job? I got a fucking, wait a minute. Who are we fighting? They can't have that happen. That's why it's called you can't fraternize with your enemies, or else you'll get court-martialed. And that's what they're doing inside the bounds of the United States right now. They're saying that you can't talk to this person. You can't talk to a right-winger. You can't talk to a Trump voter. You can't talk to a Second Amendment person. You can't talk to anybody, even if they agree with you, because that's not how organizing works. You know how organizing works? If you want to organize workers, you don't show up at the shop floor and go, hey, where are all the Trump voters? All right, you're out. Where are all the Boogaloo boys? You're out. Where are all the Proud Boys? You're out. Where are all the racists? You're out. Where are all the Second Amendment nuts? You're out. Now who's left over? We're going to organize against the man. That's not how it works. You show up. Here's where we all have a common goal. We all need a raise from our boss. We all need to be unified in a raise for our boss. You don't ask people who they voted for. You don't ask them their fucking political beliefs. You rally people around a cause. That's how you organize people. You don't show up at the shop floor. All the Trump voters, you're out. Who's racist? You're out. Who's Second Amendment? You're out. Libertarians, I'm not flirting with you. You're out. Who's out? Now who's left? Nobody. That's who's left. And so that's what they're doing now in the United States. They want to make it toxic. They want to make you afraid to fraternize with other Americans because it helps their political agenda. That's the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party wants you to keep thinking half the country is your enemy. So Ryan Grimm tweeted this out. So that tweet from our friend Ryan, he retweeted and said, a spokesperson for AOC says they did not report this post to police and have asked for answers from Capitol Police. No, not at all. But when we saw his tweets last night about being visited, we asked Capitol Police to look into what happened. So Ryan Grimm got access to the AOC spokesperson. And then he said the police did show up at that person's door over Ryan Grimm from The Intercept. He's the guy who kneecapped Forced to Vote and lied about this show, lied about Brianna Joy Gray, lied about Forced to Vote, lied about blah, blah, blah.
Acted like Pago was a big deal.
Acted like Pago was a big deal. He's just running interference for Democrats. That's what he's doing at The Intercept, Ryan Grimm.
Sad.
The police did show up at this person's door over a post about AOC is confirmed. The open question is who sent them and why. If AOC was actually responsible for it and denied it, Capitol Police would eagerly out her. So her denial has serious credibility. So that's Ryan Grimm taking the extra step to not just report the facts, but then kind of spin them in a way that's super pro AOC. So this last part, if AOC was actually responsible for it and denied it, Capitol Police would eagerly out her so that her denial has serious credit. That's what AOC's PR person is supposed to do. That's what AOC's chief of staff is supposed to do. That's not what a fucking journalist is supposed to do.
You know, the journalist, Jimmy, should actually be concerned that somebody went to somebody's house because something that was printed.
Yeah.
Speaking for myself, I'll be honest, I love seeing it. I like it when young people come up and seem to believe in something and win. I mean, I don't agree with her, but I like that. And then she immediately winds up on the side of the biggest and most powerful companies in the world. Like, this is like the end of Animal Farm. It just didn't take long for her to switch sides, did it?
It's happening right in front of our faces, and there's people who don't want to see what's happening. And I've been the one out in front on the left telling people what's happening, that you don't change the Democratic Party, Tucker, the Democratic Party changes you. And right. So that's what we're witnessing. So for her to say that I was committing violence by using words to criticize her, I don't know if you've ever been hit with an adjective, but I'll take that over a bat or something. But, I don't know if I got hit in the head with a noun the other day. I had to go through the concussion protocol. I'd rather be hit with words than actual violence. Okay, because you know what's going on is that the working people in this country are on a ledge right now, and the establishment doesn't care if they fall over. And so they're using crude forms of censorship. We've seen it. We see what they wouldn't allow the Hunter Biden story to get out. And so there's way worse things are happening. So This is a chilling time right now for people like me. It's chilling when the powerful want to insulate themselves from criticism. AOC said that if you criticize Joe Biden and his administration, what message does that send to black and brown people? Well, the message I think that sends is that we're willing to stand up for black and brown people, even during a Democratic administration that is letting them down, gaslighting them, and not giving them COVID relief. That's what that means. She thinks what she's doing is using identity politics to shield them from real criticism.
That's exactly right. And I should point out to our viewers who may not understand this, that you make your living on these big platforms, on YouTube, for example. And for you to come out and say what you've said about them takes a lot of courage, I think. And I'm impressed that you're willing to do that. Too few are. Jimmy Dore, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks.
They're always on the side of bombing, but that's not what we do at this show here. We debunk that kind of shit. We bring on people like Danny Haifong to do it. Danny, any last thing you'd like to say? So I think people got the message that the people that the Uyghurs in the United States, the Uyghur Congress, they're all funded by people in the pocket of the military-industrial complex. I know that. Now, I don't know exactly what's going on in China, but I know that. And I know that if someone uses the Uyghurs as a reason to ramp up a Cold War or some kind of they care more about the Uyghurs than they do about the people in their own goddamn country, you know they're full of shit. All right, Danny, anything else you'd like to say before we say goodbye?
Sure. So, I mean, there are a couple of points that I think are important to note. Is that the United States always seems to be concerned about human rights when the concern isn't really valid. I mean, even if you read Adrian Zenz, for example, read his studies on forced birth control, for example, you see many different citations that lead directly to sources which actually give you a more rosy picture of what's happening in Xinjiang. For example, that the population in Xinjiang, the Uyghur population, has actually risen 25%. It's a very strange genocide, right? Most genocides have reductions in population and huge migrations, right, of people out of the particular place. How is it that the United States has any kind of moral, political, or any other kind of authority to talk about genocide or even concentration camps when the United States actually built and put Japanese residents and citizens into concentration camps during World War II and justified it with the same virulent anti-Asian racism that is now fueling and is now being used to justify this new Cold War? So I guess I'll close with that, and you all know where to follow me.
So I don't know, Danny. I don't want to follow you. I'm getting sick of your apologetics for that. Those genociders over in China.
Well, the CCP doesn't pay enough, so make sure you subscribe to my Patreon.
Hey, and then they sent Ryan Grimm out to shit on Force to Vote, and all the progressive activists.
General strike. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's what needs to happen.
But Ron, how does that happen? Because I'm going to tell you how that happens. That happens when Bernie Sanders and AOC and Ro Khanna and the squad, they all use their social media, and the Justice Democrats and Our Revolution and Brand New Congress, they all get together and start telling their followers to organize a general strike. That's what they do. AOC herself has 10, 11 million Twitter followers. What they're supposed to do is tell those people to get in the streets and have action and shut shit down. That's how you get a strike. They're not ever. So there are no leaders.
2 weeks later.
If you care about student debt cancellation, it's go time for you. You need to mobilize, and now is the time to organize.
So I just want to let AOC know that the American people did mobilize. They elected a demented walking death rattle as president. They then elected the Democrat. He's a Democrat. And then they elected the Democrats to a majority in the Senate and in the House. They mobilized. They got out. They knocked on doors. They got people to vote. They moved their feet. They moved their vote. Their polling. They got it done. You guys have complete control of government. Now we still have to mobilize. We still have to do more. What are you doing? When are you going to mobilize? When she says you have to mobilize, do you mean we have to go do a protest at the Capitol? Is that what she means, Ron? Because she won't say what that means. She says you have to mobilize. Do you mean go do a protest at the Capitol? Why won't you say that then? When you say mobilize, what do you mean mobilize? We already mobilized and elected everybody. Now what? I'm calling out the left, the people who claim to want this fight their whole life. It's here, and they ran for cover. So I'm calling them out and shaming them. Shame on the DNC, shame on the DSA, shame on the nurses union. Where the fuck are you? I don't need you to be my friend. Where the fuck? I'm asking you to answer for your own self. Shame on you. This is a big clarifying moment for the left right now. The people on the left aren't fighters. That's the problem. They're not fighters. The squad is not. They're not fighters. The DSA should be banging. They should be fucking hounding the squad right now to do this. They should be hounding them. They should be showing up at their houses, doing rallies. They're not doing anything. Oh, we've been organizing. We need to organize more. We do not need to organize more for Medicare for All. It's organized. The whole country's for it. We do not need, don't let anyone tell you that. We are organized. Now it's time to threaten the people who are in power that if they don't do it, you're going to hold them accountable. That's the only thing. Do you see how AOC is bending herself in a pretzel? Now she's scared. Why? Because I'm right.
Let me tell you something. AOC with 12 million Twitter followers could actually demand, she could get Medicare for All with one tweet. Protest now. Everybody call. Protest until we get Medicare for All.
Everybody show up at the Capitol Saturday at noon. We're going to surround the Capitol. We're going to stay there until we get Medicare for All.
Done deal.
She's got 12 million Twitter followers. She could do that. Bernie Sanders could do that. They're never, ever going to mobilize their followers. Ever.